So, as we established during our original Resident Evil video, the game holds up surprisingly well, especially considering it's almost 30 years old. Honestly, the only real major complaint is that the aiming feels a little janky, and turning in those weird arcs is well annoying. But I can't hate it for those problems. I mean, I'm in my 30s and I can already feel my kneecaps separating from whatever bone it's supposed to be attached to. My point is, these are small issues, and reaching Ankh status hasn't slowed the original down one bit. Unlike me, however, the original Resident Evil is successful. How successful? Well, it only reached critical acclaim, popularized survival horror as a mainstream genre, introduced key elements that became a genre staple like inventory management, and inspired countless other equally as successful horror IPs. Oh, and let's not forget that the game sold well over 5 million units, when you combine the original with the director's cut and even the DS port Deadly Silence, which, yeah, didn't exist at the same time, but you get the point. The game sold a crap ton, and that's a super important piece of info, kids. You don't just sell something for millions and just get to ride off into the sunset. I mean, you could, but it's not exactly good for business. It's sequel time, baby. Resident Evil 2 The Awakening started development just 1 month after the completion of the original. The game was directed by Hideki Kiyama of Beautiful Joe fame. Okay, Devil May Cry. And apparently butted heads with Shinji Mikami. You know, the guy behind God Hand. Okay, fine, he directed the first Resident Evil and Dino Crisis. Anyway, they constantly bickered over what Resident Evil 2 should look like. Eventually, a frustrated Mikami stepped down as director and moved into a more producer role, with one condition: the team had to show him at least one bit of the game every month. Speaking of teams, the game was developed by a grand total of 45 people. That might sound shocking, but honestly, game development has gotten so bloated these days that teams 3 times that size, with quadruple the budget, gets regularly showed up by indie devs working in groups of 10 or less, often with shoestring budgets. I'm sure there's a lesson in there somewhere, but hey, this isn't that video. Oh, and speaking of budgets, development of Resident Evil 2 cost over 1 million Japan fund bucks. I mean, they could spare it.
Before the game we all knew and loved, Resident Evil actually took on a completely different form. First shown at the V-Jump Festival in July of '96, it was radically different from the final version. It would later be universally dubbed Resident Evil 1.5, a name that stuck after Mikami himself started using it. The plot followed the same basic outline. A zombie outbreak hits Raccoon City 2 months after the events of the first game. But here's the twist. Apparently Umbrella wasn't going to be the big bad this time around. The company had already been shut down due to the discovery of its illegal experiments, so they weren't set up to be the overarching antagonistic force like they are in the final version. The team wanted to maintain the same feeling of fear that defined the first game. To do that, they designed 2 new protagonists who had 0 experience with horrifying situations. No hardened soldiers this time, just regular people tossed into chaos. The first was Leon S. Kennedy, who honestly isn't that interested in this early version since he's largely unchanged from the final game. Although, fun fact, apparently Leon was based on one of the artist's pet bloodhound. Now, I always thought Leon was a dog, but not for that particular reason. The major difference comes from Claire Redfield, who originally wasn't even going to be in the game. She ended up replacing a character called Liza Walker, one of those college students by day, motorcycle racer by night types that were everywhere in the late 90s and early 2000s. Liza was on break from all that college and motorcycle stuff, heading back to our hometown of Raccoon City, just in time for things to go horribly wrong. Mikami also revealed that the game would feature new monsters, and that the number of enemies overall was being increased to create what he called the sensation of terror as the monsters swarmed around the character. But all I hear is the player getting chain bitten by everything in the room because there's way too many enemies and they're trying to turn to those classic tank control wide angles. There's also some other light to heavy changes that also includes an early version of Ada and equipping more protective gear that would change the character's appearance. But let's get to the reason why it's called 1.5 and not 2. Although everything initially seemed solid, not perfect, but solid, the game was expected to take another 3 months of development time. It was meant to meet its original May 1997 release date, but not soon after, 1.5 was scrapped at about 60 to 80% of completion. Mikami would later explain that the game would not have reached the desired quality on time, and that the gameplay and locations were dull. Development was restarted, and one idea that took criticism was Mikami's plan to end the series with the second title, which the idea was floated to leave it open enough to tell standalone stories within that universe with connecting elements. Few assets from Resident Evil 1.5 will be recycled, as most of the principal locations in the final build were completely redesigned to look more visually interesting and atmospheric. One major asset that didn't make the cut, Liza Walker, who, as mentioned earlier, was eventually replaced by Claire Redfield to create a stronger connection to the plot of the first game. Other big plans from the earlier build were either dropped entirely or toned down to better suit the hardware. For example, the on-screen enemy count was reduced to 7, and features like visible wounds on character models were replaced with something simpler, but now iconic, like the limping animations when the character's health drops too low. Obviously, due to the restarted development, Resident Evil 2's original May 97 release was pushed back to January 1998, when it finally launched. It received equal critical acclaim to the first, maybe even more, depending on who you ask. Not counting the DS version of Resident Evil 1 and keeping it strictly to the PlayStation, the original Resident Evil sold around 4 million copies worldwide. Resident Evil 2, however, surpassed that, selling over 4.96 million copies worldwide on the PS1 alone. Even more impressively, it sold over 3,800,000 copies in North America during its launch week on the PlayStation, making it the franchise's best-selling game on a single platform at the time.
Sometime after midnight, after leaving her college, Claire Redfield, sister of Chris, arrives in Raccoon City. The reason for her coming to the city was to find any information about the whereabouts of her brother. After not hearing from him a few weeks since he left for Europe, a month before to further investigate Umbrella. Around the same time, Leon Kennedy, fresh from his graduation from the police academy, requested to be assigned to the Raccoon City Police Department. Making his way to the city after being held up by what I can only assume were various military checkpoints, while driving along the unusually quiet road, Leon is quickly overran by zombies while investigating the corpse blocking his path, which, plot twist, turns out to be a zombie too. Meanwhile, Claire enters a local diner that is also eerily quiet. After a quick look around, she finds the hungriest chef she's ever seen. Unable to make sense of what she just witnessed and probably wonders if she should defend herself, she quickly backs herself into a wall and suddenly finds herself surrounded by zombies. Spotting the fire escape, Claire rushes towards it, only to be saved by Leon. Leon's plan? To head to the police station where it's sure to be safer. While escaping the chaos, they locate an abandoned squad car and use it to drive down to the station. You seem pretty confident shooting that guy. I thought that was the last resort.
Yeah, well, it's my first day. I know the handbook says check their skin tone first, but honestly, I've been shooting everything that moves as I got here. Guess I'm a natural. Name's Leon Kennedy.
Claire Redfield. You know, my brother's a cop too, and he's big on running around with guns. I came here to find him.
Seems like a tough guy. Hey, check that glove box.
There's a gun.
Take it. They're really powerful, especially against living things.
Whoa!
Capcoms were using my model already? I just got here! You okay?
I think I slipped the disc, actually.
Don't get cute. I shot like 6 people in 10 minutes.
Just then, a driver who was bitten earlier succumbed to his infection, sending his gas tanker speeding down the street and crashing into Leon and Claire's vehicle, exploding on impact. The two managed to escape but are separated by the fiery rack. Still focused on reaching the police station, they decide to use it as their meeting point. Claire fights her way through zombie-infested streets until she finds a refuge at a local gun shop owned by a guy named Kendo. Now, Kendo is moments away from opening fire on Claire before realizing that she isn't amongst the dead. So he offers her a place to stay since he's keeping a close eye on things, only for every zombie in the immediate area to break through the window and kill him seconds later. Now, how was that keeping an eye on things? Claire just walked right in, meaning the door had to be unlocked, because we see him lock it right after she enters. Not only that, but why didn't he fight his way outside and lower the shutters on the main display window? Surely that would have been a lot safer instead of just letting the combined weight of 5 or so zombies just lean on it. Don't get me wrong, his losses are a gain since we get his bowgun. But seriously, how did he survive for so long? I get the outbreak kinda just happened, but closing those shutters would have been the first thing I did once I realized those monsters outside, one, can't open doors, outside of that random one from Resident Evil 1, and were eating every living person they managed to get their hands on. Couldn't be me, just saying. Anyway, Claire manages to make her way to the police station and finds the only remaining officer, Marvin. Well, he won't be remaining for much longer, as he's suffering from a bite wound he got while defending the station and soon will return. Claire mentions that she's looking for her brother, and Marvin laments that the whole department, should have taken the survivor STARS members more seriously about their umbrella conspiracies after returning from the Spencer Mansion. Yeah, like, why didn't anyone look into that? STARS was like a team of 12 people? And 5 of them came back? They was like, oh, hey, welcome back, guys. Oh, there's less than half of you and the others are dead, you say. Okay, hit the showers, nothing to report here. Marvin gives Claire a key and asks her to help any survivor she sees. And after jamming his gun in her face,
just go.
Claire leaves and he locks the door behind her. Now with the key to at least this floor, she's free to explore the police station more comfortably. And it turns out that the Raccoon City police station is just as bad as the Spencer Mansion. Things like intricate key setups, various random drills, and the use of cranks all make their grand return from the first game. Obviously it was designed this way so the level design can stay close to the original, but in lore, the RPD station was built on top of what used to be a museum, and that's said to be the reason why. But if that's not a good enough explanation for you guys, just remember, Raccoon City was a very small town before technically being built up the way it is by Umbrella, and Oswald Spencer was a really paranoid dude who constantly operated in secrecy. While exploring, she encounters probably the most famous enemy type of the series outside of the basic zombie and various bosses, the Licker. And despite this game age, their introduction is still very intimidating. I've always thought the Lickers were some kind of mutated dog, but it turns out they're actually an evolution of the zombie, which I guess always made sense, given their build, exposed brain, and shoulder blades and all that. And for how cool they are though, they're basically just hunters from the first game, except they got a long range tongue attack and of course crawl much closer to the ground. After taking care of that, Claire found the STARS office, and after searching Wesker and Chris's desk, she found some film and Crest respectively. Right before she leaves, the facts come in meant for Chris from Eternal Investigations. The facts details an investigation into something called the G-Virus developed by Umbrella, which is a little vague, and it also mentions the chief of police Brian Irons, who allegedly received a large sum of hush money for Umbrella over the past 5 years. That also includes covering up the events of the Spencer Mansion incident 2 months ago. He's also under suspension for 2 separate rape charges, so you know, overall stand-up guy. We also find the dark room, and we decide to develop the film that we found on Wesker's desk, and we get this. What is this, guys? Did Wesker paste a picture of Rebecca's head as some teen's body? This isn't Watchy's Peak Chambers. Just forget wherever found this strange picture. Peak Chambers? On the way out, Claire encounters a little girl who is running from a zombie, and Claire chases after her into the next room where she reconnects with Leon.
Leon makes his way through the dead city streets, heading towards the parking lot of the police station, which has of course already fallen to the zombies. He finds his way up to a helipad where he spots a rescue copter attempting to rescue. A strange looking PS1 cop runs up to hail the pilot, but 2 random zombies teleport behind him. Instead of, running around them, he backs himself into a corner and opens fire with his automatic weapon, mind you, all over the place except their heads, only to get knocked down moments later. This triggers a full-on chain reaction of stupid. His gunfire hits the pilot, killing him instantly, and then the whole ass helicopter crashes into that cop and the 2 zombies, killing everyone in the area. I don't even know how to react to all that, and Leon doesn't say a single word about it, but at least he finds a way into the station from there. He runs around the annoying preset until finally finding a way to put out the flames caused by the helicopter that was blocking the way. Just then, another helicopter quickly passes by and drops a payload that crashes into the station near Leon's location. The payload turns out to be this massive gray guy who's been haphazardly tossed into a duster in some attempt to help it blend in. Clearly this is from Umbrella, because they're the only company in the business of making big gray dudes. You're a cop? If you are, you gotta tell me. No? Yeah, that might as well be the only amount of context between Leon and Mr. X, which is strange because to my understanding the canonical order of the 2 stories go Claire A, Leon B. So why doesn't he have more of an attachment to this character? I suppose you could say that it adds to the horror of just being chased by this unstoppable brute of a monster, and sure, you'll later find files that explain some things, but I think a little cutscene spelling things out will go a lot further. As we go along, we'll see that Claire is very tied to her primary antagonist, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. The monster attacks Leon, but he manages to give it the slip and continue making his way through the police department. Eventually, he encounters a little girl who scurries under a crack in a blocked off door, but she drops a key in the process. After backtracking to the main hall, Leon runs into Claire. She asks about the little girl he just saw, and he points her to the right direction. Clearly not wanting to leave a child of all things in such a dangerous environment, Claire plans to go after her, but she asks Leon to try to find a safe way out the city. Before they separate again, Leon gives Claire a walkie-talkie so they can keep in touch. Later, Leon enters the parking lot, where a mysterious woman takes a shot at him.
What the?
You a cop? If you are, you gotta tell me.
Can no one read my uniform?
Yeah, and most cops are undead now, so it was a test. If you were a zombie, you wouldn't have answered.
Well, learn some damn trigger discipline. Or at least check my skin tone first.
Whatever, I've done nothing wrong.
Well, if you aren't going to accept accountability, then at least tell me your name.
Ada Wong, pig boy. The amazing Ada Wong.
Are you okay? You seem sad or depressed.
Huh? No, I'm fine. Just Chinese. I'm also half American, but apparently this was the right voice for the job.
Sounds culturally appropriate. Okay, Ada. What are you doing here then?
I'm looking for a guy named Ben. He's one of those reporter by day, motorcyclist by night types that's all over these days. I've heard he's locked up in a cell block only if there's a car blocking the entrance. I've been trying to find another way inside, but I don't really feel like pushing this thing. But now since you're here.
Ada runs ahead of Leon, only to end up behind him once he finds Ben. And Leon seems rarely aggressive towards him for some reason.
Let me guess. You must be Ben, right? Get up, now!
Ada reveals she's been looking for her boyfriend, John. He's worked for Umbrella and suddenly disappeared 6 months ago. Ben doesn't know anything, but he's also really standoffish. Leon wants him out of the cell, but Ben has the keys and is keeping himself locked inside in an effort to stay safe from something far more worse than the standard monsters they've been dealing with. Leon tries to convince him that the only way to stay safe is sticking by him, but Ben still refuses to leave. He does, however, give them a heads up about a possible escape route through a manhole behind the kettle next door. Leon enters the stores and meets back up with Ada, where he actually introduces himself properly. Thinking they've reached a dead end, Ada notices a small opening, and Leon gives her a boost through so she can find a way to open the path for him.
While looking for the little girl, Claire's path is blocked by a crashed helicopter that has to be removed for her to progress. Further along the way, she finds another key that allows her to go around and regain entrance to the room Marvin locked himself in. She decides to check in on him, and unfortunately, he succumbed to his bite wound and transformed into a zombie. Claire puts him down. Sorry, brother. Oh, a detonator. Claire double backs upstairs to the crashed helicopter and uses the explosive to blow a path. There she follows the hall to the police chief's office. Hey, I'm looking for a little girl. The fuck, is she dead?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were one of those zombies out there that somehow adapted and learned how to talk, use explosives, and ask rhetorical questions.
You must be Chief Irons.
Yes, that's me. I must thank you for clearing the path to my office. I've been dumping out on that corner for what feels like hours now.
I thought that was more, the corpse hanging out on your table there.
Nope, all me. Freshly dead things fortunately don't stink as quickly. This is the mayor's daughter. I was told to look after her, but I failed. Just look at her. Her smooth, milk-like skin, tight, motionless body, and those legs. I'll tell you, she could have been 10 stories if she was a foot, but now she's gone, bitten by one of those creatures. Within the hour, she'll turn, like everyone else.
Right, strangely sexual, powering through. Wait, you said she was bitten. That looks like a gunshot wound from here.
Come now. If I wanted to shoot her, it would be in the head to prevent her from turning, although her beauty would make a fitting centerpiece for my taxidermy collection.
Okay, enough creepy talk. You obviously fucking shot her, psycho.
Maybe, But you have no proof? If I can recall, you can't even tell the difference between the smell of a sexy corpse than the polished shit in the corner of my office. Which reminds me, I've had a lot of Popeyes, so I advise you leave. Things are about to get even more smelly.
Claire leaves Irons alone in the sporting chief quarters a little further, and strangely enough, not too far away is a little girl we've been looking for, sitting there hiding in the dark. Claire turns on the lights and she tries to make a break for it, but Claire stops her and calms her down after confirming she isn't a zombie. Man, the characters in this game have a real hard time telling a normal person from a zombie, huh? Sherry introduces herself to Claire and explains that both her parents work at the umbrella chemical plant near the city limits, and that her mother told her to go to the police station where it would be safe when the outbreak started. Claire mentions bringing Sherry along since it isn't safe there either, but Sherry warns her that she's being chased by a creature that's much bigger than the zombies, and right on cue, the creature senses the moment and lets out a roar, which sends her running off again. Returning to Iron's office, Claire finds that he mysteriously disappeared, and the body of the mayor's daughter is gone with him. Eventually, she meets back up with Sherry. Claire tries to put her foot down and orders Sherry to come with her, accidentally sounding a little too creepy in the process.
I was so worried. We've got to go now, honey, okay? If we stay here, that monster will find us. Let's go.
No, I won't.
What's the matter? Don't you trust me?
But Sherry doesn't have an issue trusting her. She just wants to stay put because she heard her father calling her name and assumed that he must be some type of danger. Then she sprints off yet again, but this time Claire can't chase after her as she climbs up and squeezes into a tiny hole. The Sherry special. Now we get to take control of Sherry for a little bit, sneaking around, avoiding some enemies, and getting reintroduced to the block puzzle, which would be annoying as an adult, but now is a little based because we're playing as a kid. She doesn't find her father, but she does find a precinct key and decides to toss it down to Claire. Now with no way to get back to where she came from, and being the hard-headed, block-punching wonder kid she is, she runs off for like the 10th time to find another way back up to Claire. After a lot more running around, Claire once again links up with Sherry, and she actually sticks around this time. While searching the office, she finds a secret passage that lead down to the sewers. Before taking a lift, Claire tells Sherry to stay put, and well, we can only hope that order sticks with our hard-headed ass. Before reaching the bottom, we see Irons is attacked by some kind of creature that injects a parasite into him. By the time Claire reaches his little, I want to say, taxidermy dungeon, he's already recovered and he starts losing it, ranting about how Umbrella betrayed him and how he's basically on borrowed time now. He decides to tell Claire about the G-Virus, a more powerful, advanced virus that causes extreme mutagenic transformations in his host, instead of just plain zombification like the T-Virus. He also reveals that Sherry's father, William Birkin, is a scientist who developed the virus. He vaguely mentions a monster that was set loose in his precinct, but I'm a little confused about which one he's referring to, because there are currently 2 of them out and about. And aside from clutching his chest for a second, he seems completely fine with whatever thing was tossed into his mouth earlier. At any rate, Irons looked like he ready to give Claire the big hurt, and he probably would have if it wasn't for that same thing suddenly bursting out of his chest. Claire just kinda shrugs at the situation and pimps on, taking a letter down to the sewers where she immediately witnessed the power of the G-Virus firsthand. The creature that erupted out of Irons instantly mutates into a full-grown boss battle. I've just noticed there really aren't a lot of boss fights in RE2, and this particular G-Virus spawn is nothing to write home about. You'll take more damage from the leashes than you would the actual boss itself. Now with a relatively safe path to the sewers, Claire backtracks to pick up Sherry.
Claire, you're back!
If I buy peanuts and crush them at home, I can save tons of money on peanut butter.
Claire?
While making their way through, they encounter Sherry's pursuer, and they remain quiet as not to get his attention as they break into the next area to avoid him. In this section, Sherry is dragged into a trap door and falls deeper into the sewers, away from Claire's protection. Ew man, you know the way she felt, she got a mouthful of that nasty underground water. I'm sick of characters just walking around in sewer water and being completely fine with it. I'm supposed they don't have a choice, but still though. Sherry attempts to find her way back up to Claire, where she finds the wolf medal, but is caught off guard by the trash release or whatever it's called opening up, causing her to take a nasty fall, knocking her out.
Rosebud. I mean, Schwain.
Sherry, hello. Well, when in Rome.
Ada enters the path Leon couldn't reach and runs into Sherry. How did she get in there? Alright, hold on a second. Claire finds Sherry a couple rooms away from Chief Iron's office. Then she runs off, then Claire finds her again a little while later without her locket. And then she runs off yet again to go help her father. All that's fine, especially if you assume she's been crawling through vents in the sewer tunnels to navigate the police station somehow. But that would mean her running into Ada would have happened before she ran into Claire for the second time, because she drops her locket while running away from Ada. Unless you're telling me the developers just forgot to use her with locket model after the first Claire encounter, but that would be stupid. Ada picks up Schwarzenegger's locket with a big goofy PS1 hand and opens it to reveal a picture of Sherry's parents. She decides to hold on to it for her. Ada makes her way through the sewers, destroying everything with her overpowered pistol. She finds a key and some shotgun ammo, then returns to the entrance to give the items to Leon. And since she can't reach the hole that she entered, she decides to carry on without him. Leon continues to make his way through the station where he runs into Mr. X again. This time we actually decide to fight him once again, dumping an ungodly amount of handgun ammo into him until he finally goes down. We better get a sweet reward for all that. Just shotgun shells? Broke bitch. And since you can't keep a good tyrant down, he comes back for what, round 3? We take him down again. Better not be more random shotgun shells. Magnum bullets? Alright, that's better. Leon jumps down the old death chute that leads back into the holding cells, just in time to see Ben get killed by Sherry's pursuer. Leon then shouts empty orders at him like, "Hold on," even though the guy has a giant gash through his chest. Before dying, Ben gives Leon his notes incriminating Chief Irons. Ada arrives as well and decides their next move is to head to Umbrella's chemical plant, where she thinks John will be. Leon follows Ada to the chemical plant through the sewers, where he finally meets Ben's killer face to face as it mutates even further. I would tell you the deep, complex strategies needed to fight him, but we had a manual, so just blast him a couple times until he falls off the railing. Leon meets back up with Ada a couple rooms later. He chastises her for constantly running off without considering the ridiculous amount of threats around them, which includes but not limited to the giant monster that just killed Ben. And even though she's rocking that static PS1 face, you can tell she's doing that little girl pout. Still, she lets Leon take point. They both make their way through the sewers and take a lift down deeper when they see a female scientist.
Come back here.
Ada, we talked about accountability.
No, we didn't. Whoa,
You stupid bitch.
Leon. Oh, just sit there and pout.
Ada continues her chase of the scientist until she's ambushed and held at gunpoint. It turns out that the woman is Annette, William Birkin's wife, and she informs Ada that John has already turned into a zombie, and that plans to kill Ada in an attempt to keep the G-Virus safe. Then she notices Sherry's locket and attacks Ada to get her hands on it, but Ada gains the upper hand and slaps her down to the lower sections of the sword.
Where did you get that pendant? It looks exactly like the one I gave Sherry.
She dropped it. I've been holding on to it for her.
Liar! Give it back to me! Oh!
Too bad.
When Leon wakes up, he kinda just shrugs off his gunshot wound, and then he starts splashing around in dirty ass water, which I'm positive isn't good for it. Damn, those herbs must be some primo shit. He makes his way to where Ada just stops and she patches him up when he starts to feel the effects of his injuries. After that finishes, she tells him that John is dead, but she quickly dismisses it as they look for a way out. They locate an underground train, and when they enter, they're attacked by the monster that's been hounding them once more.
Holy shit! Leon, what the hell was that? Hey, are you going to help me?
Nope. Learn some accountability.
Fine.
When
There, done.
With the monster off the train, they're finally able to move to the chemical plant. Ada begins messing with the control panel as Leon scouts on ahead. He finds out that Mr. X has also made his way to their location as well. He grabs the control panel key and returns to Ada, and she turns it on. The both of them backtrack to the train as the elevator takes them down further.
Leon, you still mad about that gunshot wound? Oh, just sit there.
Oh, damn. Ada? I'm not mad anymore. Ada? That's not good.
While Claire is searching for Sherry, she runs into her mother, Annette. Annette holds her at gunpoint, accusing her of being an Umbrella spy attempting to steal the G-Virus from her husband. Claire connects the pieces and tells Annette that her daughter is running around in sores, pleading with her to help find her. Annette could have swore she told Sherry to stay at the police station, but we all know that girl is hard-headed, so I don't get why Annette is shocked here. She don't listen. She then confirms that the monster chasing after her has been our father William the entire time. William Birkin was in the process of grabbing the virus samples and getting ready to escape when he is confronted by some Umbrella agents. He tried to stand his ground, but during the standoff, he accidentally knocked over a cup, which was apparently all it took for the agents to panic and open fire, mortally wounding him. They grab the sample right before Annette arrives to find her dying husband, and while she goes off to find a couple of big band-aids, he injects himself with the G-Virus in a last-ditch effort to save his own life. The virus does save his life thanks to its ability to revive cellular functions, but it also transforms him into this unstoppable creature rampaging through the sewers. He attacks and kills the escaping agents, causing them to drop both the T and G virus samples, which infects the nearby rats and eventually Raccoon City's water supply, inadvertently triggering the entire outbreak. Annette goes on to explain that at this point William has lost any prior memory of his time as a human. She also drops the knowledge that, unlike the T-Virus, any bioweapon created from the G-Virus can reproduce by injecting embryos into a living host. Usually these embryos are rejected by anyone who doesn't share the same genetic code, but since Sherry's his daughter, that makes her the most compatible host, which is why he's been hunting her down. And since they said her name, obviously it's time for the all-cue scream as she falls down the trash chute, and the two split up in order to find her. Claire luckily locates her as she's just waking up. She complains that her stomach is bothering her, likely because of said embryo, but like most adults, Claire tells her to get over it. Oh, there was also a giant alligator boss fight between all that, but yeah. They make their way over to an underground cargo train and prep it for transport. As they get into position, Sherry really begins to nurse her stomach. And like most adults, Claire actually listens to her the second time when there's actually a fever. Suddenly, Birkin hops on the train and begins to attack it, and Claire goes out to address the problem.
You bitch! Give me back my kid! Man, I don't have a weapon!
Birkin, you're pitiful. Oh shit! You know how these boss battles work by now. Pick your most powerful or most effective weapon, preferably whatever happens to be their weakness. Take 2 casual steps to the left so Birkin whiffs an attack, then unload 2 or 3 rounds and repeat. Man, I've never realized how bad all these fights actually are. The atmosphere from the big story reveals, the great monster designs, and the cool music really does a lot of the heavy lifting for these things, huh? Claire returns to Sherry and she's really not looking too good, so she carries her into a safe area of the lab. She leaves Sherry her jacket for a bit of luck, and so we can get a cool undershirt costume to Claire. Sherry thanks her and opens up about how her parents were never really attentive to her because of their work, and how genuinely happy she is to have Claire looking out for her. Claire leaves her to rest while she explores the rest of the lab, and hopefully finds a way to synthesize an antidote. All joking aside, this is a really good scene. Sherry might be a little hard-headed, but that's mostly because her parents suck, so it's not hard to empathize with her. And Claire giving her her vest, cute as hell. Oh, we need a joke to go out on. Hey, is that WWF's Lita?
Leon goes out to find Birkin, who has recovered from his fight with Claire a while ago thanks to the G-Virus's cell regeneration, and is now sporting yet another monstrous mutation that takes him further and further away from even looking remotely human. Leon blasts him and returns to Ada, who is finally starting to understand the stinging bite of accountability, although she's far too messed up to accompany Leon to the lab, so he has her wait there. You can tell this is a secret Umbrella laboratory because there are naked zombies here. But hey, they do look better. Eventually Leon runs into Annette, who does her usual thing of assuming anyone who isn't her is an Umbrella spy. I mean, I don't blame her. Still though. She rants about how they murdered William and how Leon is after the G-Virus sample, but after she notices Leon has no idea what she's talking about, Annette gladly informs him that Ada is a spy who came here for the sample, and that she figured this out via a background check. How bad is Ada's agency if this is just grabbable info? Annette goes on to confirm that Ada got close to John specifically to obtain that sample. Leon still doesn't believe her, although all he really has to do is think about everything Ada's done up to this point, including but not limited to him taking a bullet after she randomly sped off to chase after Annette earlier. Annette doesn't care though, and plans on killing Leon when Mr. X appears, giving her an opening to escape instead, leaving Leon to deal with him. Leon does just that and gains some more Magnum ammo. He tries to take the elevator, but the door won't open because of Annette using it, so Leon makes his way back. Making her way through the upper levels, Claire runs into an escaping Annette. And although they left on good terms last time, well at least under the shared goal of protecting Sherry, Annette still immediately sticks a gun in Claire's face. Once again, Claire has to remind her that her daughter isn't safe.
Annette, Sherry's in danger.
Sherry's in danger! Sherry's in danger!
Exactly what a spy would say.
She is though.
You seem to forget that I'm Sherry's mother, not you. I'll protect her because she's mine. If I wanted to take her name and change it to Swing, I have that right as her mother, not you.
Sounds more like property, but fine, as long as we help her. She's been implanted by William's embryos. A little gross, but I suppose once you have an eye growing out of your arm, the taboo of incest is the first to go.
This news seems to be enough to have Annette snap back to reality, but the moment she hears William's roar, she runs off. She doesn't get very far before he cuts her off and attacks her. Claire rushes to Annette after hearing her scream, and William runs off knowing that he just get his ass kicked by Claire again. With her dying breath, Annette gives Claire some notes on how to develop an antigen to save Sherry and laments how she could have been a better mother. She then pleads with Claire to apologize for Sherry on her behalf and finally dies. Umbrella, spy.
Come on, man.
Shut up, spy. This is my deathbed confessional. Tell Sherry I'm sorry for not being a better mother. Sherry. I mean, Swing.
Annette!
This is another really good scene that once again makes you feel sorry for a Birkin, but only a little. Yeah, both Annette and William are ultimately very evil people, helping develop the T-Virus, conducting unethical experiments on humans and animals, creating bioweapons used to kill people like the hunters from the first game, and basically starting this whole outbreak. But she tried to do right by her kid by the end, and that earns a little sympathy. While making his way back, Leon is stalked by Mr. X once more, but this time Ada comes in with the assist and opens fire on the monster.
Ada!
Taking accountability. Run.
Stupid humans. Please realize that I have no weakness. Powerless. I've got you by your scruff. Ha! 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 You bitch! Why did Umbrella make me bulletproof and anywhere but the fucking eye?
Bitch can't even swim. Nailed it. I checked the skin tone first. Get out of here.
I'm not leaving you. We're partners. I can't leave you behind.
I'm just a woman that fell in love with you.
What the hell?
Yeah, I'm hot. You're hot.
Thank you.
Think about it. Your very own morally dubious freedom-loving Asian girlfriend. I can see our future from here.
Mom, I need some advice about sex.
I don't think you're ready yet. Women today are always rushing into things. It takes years of flirting and teasing to bring a man to a proper boil.
We can definitely talk about that.
Fine, Vin. Sit there and pout.
Ada, I should have been the one to fill your female soul full of accountability.
Leon has little time to mourn. Because Mr. X smashing Ada through the console triggers a system-wide failure that will now have the lab explode in the next couple of minutes. As if things couldn't get any worse, it is revealed that Mr. X survived. Claire contacts Leon and asks him to go grab Sherry from the security office while she fights her way to the main lab to create the antigen. He agrees and heads out to collect her, while Claire finally manages to synthesize a vaccine. While rushing towards Leon and Sherry's location, Birkin confronts her once again. As the fight goes on, William mutates, this time into a dog creature or something. Doesn't really accomplish much though, because Claire blows him away with a spark shot. She does enough damage to subdue him long enough for her to escape. Meanwhile, after putting Sherry on the tram, Leon goes to start it up, but he's stopped by Mr. X, who not only survived, but also decides to mutate for round 2. As they fight, Ada gets involved by tossing down a redemption rocket launcher for Leon to use. He grabs it and finally puts Mr. X down for good.
Game over.
I won!
Leon makes his way to the front of the tram and starts it up just as Claire makes her way there, and luckily she's able to hop on before it speeds off as the laboratory self-destructs. Claire administers the vaccine to Sherry and she wakes up and is seemingly going to make a recovery. Not being able to catch a break, it turns out William has one more transformation in him as he attaches himself to the back of the train. And since William is a full-on biohazard mess at this point, he triggers the train's self-destruct protocol. Wow. 2 self-destruct sequences? Way to up the ante, Resident Evil 2. Leon makes his way to the back to fight him. This part is basically just scraping gum off the bottom of your shoe. Unload every weapon you have until he finally weakens. Birkin isn't giving up though. Leon is forced on top because William just keeps coming, giggity. He wants to stop the train, but the door to the control room is locked. Sherry does what she does best and slides under the door into the control room. Meanwhile, the monster makes his way to Claire's section. She tries to buy time for Sherry to find the brakes, eventually being forced to hide underneath the train hanging on for dear life. Sherry reaches the controls and manages to stop the train. The group makes a mad dash to the exit while Birkin is in hot pursuit, but he finally runs out of time as he goes down with the train. With the trio finally safe outside of Raccoon City, Leon doesn't waste any time resolving himself to taking down Umbrella after their night of horror, thus ending Resident Evil 2.
So, it's finally over. Sherry, you look terrible.
No worse than you, Claire.
Come on, time to leave.
Now? What's wrong? Is something following us?
We have to go. We don't have any time to waste.
Go? Where?
Hey, it's up to us to take out Umbrella.
Steel in my grip, badge cracked on my vest. Emerald marks glow, keeping evil suppressed. I'm a shadow in alleys, I don't bend or break. Shells in the chamber, every shot I take. Streets howl with the bodies they unleash from labs. But my oath runs deeper than the blood they grab. I don't chase profit, I don't fear the swarm. I bring order in the chaos, cutting through the storm. Umbrella built weapons, but they bleed like men. Shotgun thunder makes them fold again. I ain't saving the
With the story of Resident Evil 2 out the way, we'll like to take the next couple of minutes for a quick review of the game itself, much like our first video. Honestly, this might be a little shorter since RE2 doesn't deviate a whole lot from the first game. Of course, being a sequel, RE2 doesn't bother teaching the player with the basics like the first game did. Zombies don't need any grand introductions this time, instead the devs just taught you straight into the action. Isolation felt like a major theme of the first game, and that feeling is still here, but it's presented differently. For larger world RE2 offers feel like one that's been frozen in time. Being set in a more urban environment, you'll find trash scattered everywhere, desk piled with important notes and items is left out in the open. And it all feels more believable this time around, because the outbreak happened so suddenly it stopped everyone's lives. Literally. The overall visuals of Resident Evil 2 is a pretty noticeable step up from the first game. The pre-rendered backgrounds are cleaner, sharper, and way more detailed, making the world look less like a haunted dollhouse and more like an actual city that just got nuked by bad decision making. Character models also got a glow up, rounder faces, better animation, fewer PS1 polygon fighting for his life moments. Even the creatures look better, and by better I mean more wetter and nastier. Overall, RE2 pushes the PlayStation much harder, giving things a smoother, more cinematic look compared to the stiff, grainy visuals of the original. Although I think the characters' running cycles look very strange. It improves on the first game in pretty much every way without reinventing the wheel. The pacing is a lot smoother, the world's a lot larger, and the game actually feels like it has forward momentum, instead of just running around a murder mansion solving puzzles for people who don't live here anymore. The controls are more responsive, the item management feels less cruel, and the combat, while still classic tank-era survival horror, feels more polished overall. The scenario system is also a massive upgrade. Instead of just picking Chris or Jill and calling it a day, RE2 gives you the A and B scenarios, where your actions in one story affects another, making it feel more connected and intentional. The enemy variety also takes a big step up here too, with lickers, G-mutants, giant spiders, zombie dogs, and of course, Mr. I Don't Hear No Bell X. Speaking of feeling more connected, this brings us to Resident Evil 2's major gameplay gimmick, the zapping system. It's a generally cool idea on paper. You play for one character's A scenario, then play for the other character's B scenario, and the game is supposed to react to the choices you made, primarily which items you choose to leave behind for the second character to take advantage of. In theory, it makes the story feel more connected, like Leon and Claire is actually moving through the same disaster at the same time. In practice, it doesn't really come into any real meaningful play, mostly because the game is, well, pretty easy. Don't get me wrong, it works completely fine, but you're never really punished for grabbing items the other characters should get. And the big shared event moments are more like fun nods than actual consequences. It's still an interesting system, just one that feels more like a neat bonus feature than a game-changing mechanic. The plot is an impressive, natural escalation of the events of the first game. Instead of just another spooky mansion in the woods, the nightmare spilled right into Raccoon City, and suddenly the outbreak feels bigger, louder, and way more chaotic. The wider cast helps too. Leon, Claire, Ada, Sherry, Annette, Burke, and Irons, all with varying motivations and loyalties, so there's a lot more happening as you play, which naturally leads to way more cutscenes in the first game. And because RE2 is so much more streamlined, it doesn't really require nearly as much backtracking. The overall length feels a lot shorter than RE1. I know it's probably a lot longer, but I don't know, RE1 did really just have you wandering around until the reveals finally started happening. That said, the story definitely suffers from a lot more plot inconsistencies than her original. Characters magically teleporting between areas, Locket-related time paradoxes, Sherry speedrunning sword routes that should require several maps, and events that don't quite line up between scenarios. RE2 loves to make the timeline bend like it's made out of rubber, and the game leans so hard into the dual scenario idea that the plot ends up going in way more directions than the two campaigns can comfortably keep straight.
Resident Evil 2 absolutely still stands tall as one of the most important games in the series. It took the core idea of creepy place filled with zombies and expanded it into something that actually felt like a full-scale catastrophe, showing just how big and messy the world outside that mansion actually was. And honestly, its impact can't be understated. This is the game that cemented Resident Evil as a franchise, not just a one-off horror experiment, but a full-blown multimedia beast that will eventually spiral into movies, remakes, spin-offs, and more lore than any human being should be reasonably expected to remember. RE2 proved that the series could grow, evolve, and get way more ambitious without losing the things that made it special in the first place. Replaying it now, I can say it's not nearly as tense as the first game, and I don't think it particularly tries very hard to create many scares. But the pacing is tight, the monsters are cool, and the game never overstays its welcome. It's a classic for a reason. Next time we enter the world of survival horror, we'll be roaming the streets of Raccoon City way longer with the final entry of the mainline trilogy, the one spin-off turned full sequel, Nemesis.
Team Crossbody.